You're listening to the House of Cards on the Big Patriot Radio Network.
Introducing to you.
You're on House of Cards. Live on Facebook and YouTube.
It's going down now.
Locked and loaded with the truth.
And good evening, everybody. Once again, it is Thursday night. That means it's time for the Beaufort County House of Cards here on the Big Patriot Radio Network. I'm Mike Covert. And man, do we have a big show for you tonight. First guest is already back in the green room. Got to do the hair, get a glass of water. Couple of those brownies that we have back there. We'll get her on here just quickly. It's been a full show, just a full show. I want to thank everybody for tuning in, whether you're on Facebook, YouTube, two channels on Facebook, by the way, YouTube, X, where else? Simulcasting live right here on BigPatriotRadio.com. Tons of folks pouring in all four of those different places. Man, we're glad to have you here. And those folks who watch it later on a tape delay on whatever platform, thank you for tuning in. That helps keep things going. We'd like to see those numbers. Don't forget, we have podcasts every night of the week, just about. Monday nights is New America Movement from David and Jordan Cox out of Easley. Tuesday is a night off. Wednesday, we have Corey Allen in the Overton Report. At Tuesday nights at 8 o'clock and 9 o'clock. Thursday nights, we're simulcasting the House of Cards. Then Saturday, and Ubellis and the Southern Sense Radio Show. And then Sunday is our good friend Andrew Southwick and Culture Crossroads. Last week, let's see here real quick. The number one song was Gone Girl from Morgan Wallen. And the top two cities, Beaufort, South Carolina, and Hickory, North Carolina, our top listening cities. You see scrolling along the bottom of your screen there. Please consider a donation to keep independent news and media on the radio and on online. You can go to Venmo, or you can go to patreon.com/Beaufort House of Cards. All right. Moving on down. Up first tonight, again, we have our first guest. We're getting ready to bring her on. This week we had this little thing going on. This little election here in South Carolina. The first guest won in a, I guess you could call it a proverbial landslide. Tuesday night, Republican race for Congressional District Number 1 nomination. On the Republican side, please welcome our Congresswoman Nancy Mace to the show. Hey, Nancy.
Hey, how are you, Mike?
I'm doing good. Congratulations, first of all, on your victory Tuesday night.
Thank you very much. It was a resounding victory. It was a resounding defeat for the establishment, for the swamp, for the DC elite. The people spoke, and they spoke overwhelmingly. It was awesome to watch.
Overwhelming is a nice way to put it. And how does it feel? Because the other side of that coin, while it was there was no question, an impressive win, but the amount of voter apathy was horrible in South Carolina. I mean, how does that take a little bit out of it? A win is a win.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, they spent $7 million in negative ads on all the airwaves, all your TVs, digital, online. Every time you opened up your phone, there was a negative Nancy Mace ad. And it was every radio too. And so that type of live fire, almost like that kind of fire coming in, negativity coming in, does dissuade people from coming out and voting, which is unfortunate. We want as many people to exercise their right to vote as possible, but nevertheless, there was low turnout everywhere across the state. And in Beaufort County, for example, we were the only race on the ballot. And so depending on where you were, you might have had one race, you might have had a couple races, but not many. And as you know, only the most conservative people turn out for these primaries. But even still, they spent $7 million, the DC swamp did, and we won by almost 30 points. I mean, it was just, if more people had turned out, we would have won by a even higher margin, according to our internal data. It was just crazy to see it. I ran my own race. I was my own campaign manager. We were up 20 to 25 points the entire time. And I'm, as a candidate, as things get closer, things narrow down. I was like, when's the other shoe going to drop? Knock on wood. It never did. And we ended up winning by a larger margin than we were even predicting.
As impressive as that was, I was shocked, to be honest with you. I gave Bill Young 6 points. That's what I gave him. Yeah. And I think he ended with 13. 13 points. I was impressed.
Well, he took away votes from Catherine Templeton. And
Yeah.
so there's always the anti-vote, you're looking at about a third, no matter what, no matter how much money is spent, no matter what. But he took about, they split their votes basically. It's someone spending $7 million, someone spending $7,000, or how many thousands of dollars he spent. And they split that faction of the vote. And, my hat's off to anybody who gets in the arena. It's not easy. And it's incredibly difficult on you and your family, as you know personally, Mike, how hard it is. And everything you put at stake, you put your blood, your sweat, everything that you have into it. And so it's not easy. Win, lose, or draw, it's a challenge.
It is. It is a big challenge. And I heard, I guess it was the other night, I think it was last night, that I don't know what I was watching, but somewhere, and you had mentioned that you were your own campaign manager.
Yeah.
Like, wow, this is tough as hell to begin with.
Yeah.
And then you take on another job. I mean, kudos to you. Let me ask you your most dominant county percentages here in the first district. And I'm not adding Colleton County because they had less than 500 votes. So aside from that, came in Berkeley County. You had 61% of the vote, and the least came here in Beaufort County with, I believe it was right at 50%. I want to start with Berkeley County. What do you feel you did or whatever happened that you did exceptionally and exceedingly better than the competition to get such a high percentage, 61%?
Yeah. I can't give away my secret recipe, Mike, but I did the majority of my data work too. And I had a really solid team. Everybody fulfilled their role spectacularly, but I was really surgical. And I told my team at the end, I said, we're doing board certified surgery here. We are going to get outspent 3-1. And every single vote, every voter that comes out, it matters. And it matters significantly because the amount of money that they were spending. And so I had a plan that was, I would describe it as very surgical in nature, making sure that we talked to people that were like-minded and would come out and support us. Because really it's a turnout operation. And it's finding your voters and making sure that they get out. And we have a number of runoffs happening across the state right now. And I've got candidates calling me, asking me for advice. And my advice to them is know who your voters are and make sure they turn out, because runoffs where you have these races, it's even lower turnout than primaries. And when you have low turnout, anything can happen.
So let's look at the other side of that spectrum, and that would be Beaufort County, which, you won about 12 points, which in normal conversations, that's a wide win. And again, a win is a win. Obviously, the wider, the better. However, compared to the other counties in the first district, that it's a dismal 12-point victory. Now, in my opinion, this is my opinion. I would like yours on this. Do you feel that with the Beaufort County State Executive Committee woman out there campaigning for Catherine Templeton, as hard as she was that the reason that she got so close?
I haven't dissected it quite yet. I'll do an after action review next week when I've collected all the data. We actually won that woman's precinct, by the way.
Did you really?
Yes.
I have not looked at precinct, so
a win is a win, Mike. A win is a win. And I even had former staff campaigning down there in Hilton Head. You know what I mean? And so it's like it was a little bit different this time. And so the dynamics were different. I mean, we've always had that same individual running people against us and that kind of thing. But, my opponent camped out down there and was down there every single day. And days when I had to be in DC for votes, but I couldn't be in Beaufort County, then, my opponents were down there. And that makes it difficult. And I'll tell you this year, more than the previous congressional session, we've been in DC more weeks. And it's like we have 1 week home a month, essentially. And it's been really difficult to campaign on top of everything because we're up here for 3 or 4 days, 3 weeks out of the month. And so it puts your schedule out of kilter, which is why, I do a lot of town halls all the time. I try to reach voters in other ways, whether it's telephone town halls, et cetera, texting, those kinds of things, because we've been in DC quite a bit this year.
Let's move on to the general election. Okay. What the victory is over. It's time for the general election. Michael Moore is the Democrat opponent. Do you think there will be any debates for you and Moore to get together and see what I consider to be diametrically different, polar opposite people Is that gonna happen?
The only debate invitation that I'm aware of right now is with our Jewish community. And so we've received that invitation. I think it's really important for Jewish residents to know all the work that I've done to support their community in Israel, etc. I'm not aware of any other debates, but honestly, I can't wait to educate Low Country voters about Bernie Bro, because this guy loves the labor unions, loves some Bernie Sanders. I'm going to educate voters about his DEI qualifications and socialism, because that's what Bernie Sanders is. And this guy, loves some Bernie.
And that's the sad thing about this guy, taking his pedigree. If he had, taken that and really, embraced it, so to speak, because he's a descendant of Robert Smalls, I think he could have done himself some favor. But alas, as you just said, he went into the left side of the road in the ditch. So I hope
values aren't Low Country values. And if you are, we're not progressive, right? We're right of center, we're left of center, we're conservative. There are Democrats, there are libertarians, there are a lot of independents. Bernie does not appeal to independent voters. And so socialism is not something Low Country voters want.
I believe, and I hope you do, and I think you do, that if you're thinking on this, if all the factions, if you will, of the Republican Party, if they'll, now coalesce around you, that will ease some of the, the infighting, both in the Capitol and here in South Carolina. How will you be able to bring over, pull some of those moderates and some of those independents, let those that, stay in the left side of the pool, let them stay there, but all those others, how are you going to pull some of them over?
Well, if you look at our results and you compare them, you can sort of compare them a little bit to the presidential primary. We're already doing it. We outperformed most candidates, on the ballot in that regard, pulling people over. But I've always been very fiscally conservative, socially sensible, very fiscally conservative, and that appeals to independent minded. That's left of center, right of center. Nobody wants to see their taxes raised. Nobody wants that right now with inflation as high as it is. And I have a really strong record on fiscal policy. And so we're going to talk about the issues that matter to voters. Even if you're an independent or a Republican, conservative, a Democrat, our country has borders. So the decision in November is, are we a nation with borders or are we a nation without? Because if we don't have any borders, we're not a country. And when you look at Joe Biden's policies and you look at Republican policies, we're clearly a party who wants the rule of law, wants borders. And so it'll be a stark contrast in November. And it'll be well deserved, because the left has gone totally off the rails. And even on social issues, like suburban moms don't want men in their daughters' locker rooms. I mean, it's just, in their bathrooms while they're changing. Did you see the Planet Fitness video from like 2 months ago? It's like a 40-something-year-old guy in his boxers, is willy-nilly flopping around, shaving his beard, with a 12-year-old girl in a towel in the corner. It's just gross. And that is where Biden is. That's where the left is. That is not where mainstream America is.
Not at all. Not at all. And it's disgusting.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got all my kids are grown. You've got a young daughter. I would imagine a teenager. Is she a teenager yet?
Yeah, she just turned 15. And interestingly, I told a story on the campaign trail. She had her 14th birthday last year. I took her shopping. I said, we can spend an hour downtown at one store, right? And you get $100. And we went to Erie, downtown Charleston on King Street. And she was taken to the dressing room by a biological male in a mini skirt and a lace bralette. And I couldn't tell if this was an underage boy, an over 18-year-old boy, totally inappropriate.
Yeah.
Look on my face, look on her face. We got the heck out of there. We're like, we're not, no, she was horrified. I was horrified. We got the heck out. No, thanks.
Unbelievable. Away from that kind of stuff for just a second. Obviously you're aware, mass media has been all over you like a wet blanket. For several days now, in the words of like WAPO and the New Republic, and I don't know if is that.
The New Republic hates me. So does WAPO. Yeah.
They came out and they said that you were, fleecing the taxpayers' money. Would you like to? I would give you the opportunity to set the record straight on that.
Yeah, I mean, nothing obviously could be further from the truth. I follow all ethics rules and ethics guidelines. I don't know what else to say. And so it's just sort of, it's a Hail Mary. It was a political hit job. Clearly, the weekend before the biggest election, in the country, Tuesday night was our race. I mean, literally $7 million was spent against us. And Kevin McCarthy was personally pitching, because I heard from reporters, personally pitching these papers, this story. And so I follow all the rules, I'm an open book, it is whatever. So, but the voters saw through it. They saw the truth through the lies, even with all the powerful forces and powerful people working against us.
For years, and I've known you several years now, you have always said, no one will outwork me.
Yeah.
No one will outwork Nancy Mace. And I have to say, if people don't know this or didn't know this, they should. Tuesday, all over the district, last minute campaigning. And I know what that feels like. Tuesday night, watch party. Wednesday, you're back in DC taking votes. That's dedication. You didn't take a day off to recharge. You went right back to DC. I think you only missed one vote in transit.
I missed the morning series, I think. I missed the rule on the contempt vote, but I made the contempt vote. I got confused yesterday. Right. I missed the rule on the contempt vote, but I made the contempt vote yesterday afternoon.
Did you have time to take in the congressional baseball game?
I did not. I had a couple of events last night, and I wasn't able to make it up. But we won. We won huge again, like 4th year in a row.
There you go. Back to work on Capitol Hill. Congressman of the United States is currently facing the possibility of, as you well know, military involvement in several places in a couple of continents, actually. Then we get the curveball, the baseball theme. Russia brings ships and a nuclear-powered submarine to Havana, Cuba, 90 miles off the Florida shores. I don't think anybody saw that coming, at least out here in the daily world. That changes everything. Don't you agree?
Well, welcome to Joe Biden's America, right? This would never happen under Donald Trump. And that's what's on the ballot this year. Look what this guy has done. He's weakened America because there's weakness in the White House. He's not all there. Today he was caught wandering around aimlessly in Italy. World leaders mock him. Our adversaries laugh at him. And you had Russia invading Ukraine under his watch. You have Hamas invading Israel. The Houthis trying to bomb military assets in the Middle East and our private container ships overseas. And, this just goes to show that Putin is not afraid of the United States. And in fact, Donald Trump brought Russia up and their ships off the coast of Florida this morning in his speech on Capitol Hill. And we all know that we would be safer under Donald Trump. Taking
a look at, I do daily and nightly flight tracking. The United States military is obviously paying close attention to Russia and Cuba. I've seen P-8 sub-hunters, AWACS, command and control planes, plenty of KC-135 Stratofortress refuelers, all in that area in a concerted amount. Since you're a member of the Armed Services Committee, and I believe you're on the subcommittee of intelligence and special ops, as well as sea power and projection forces, is this going to continue? And where is that red line with Russia being so close to our shores?
Oh, I'm sorry. I've got my phone keeps going off. I apologize. I'm sorry. What was the question again? I missed that. My computer keeps going off. Somebody's calling. Trying to turn it off.
That's okay. With you being on the Armed Services Committee and the subcommittees of intelligence and special operations, sea power and protection forces, do you foresee this continuing, the Russia-Cuba thing? And where there's got to be a red line, because we're only 90 miles away. Where is that red line where we don't let that continue?
It's hard to say. I mean, you can't trust this administration. You can't trust Joe Biden on any military policy. If Joe Biden told us what his red line was, that he's a pathological liar, and no one really knows, right? And so I think it's really important that we look to November to having solid leaders who support our military, who support our nation, who support our borders, will ensure that we're going to keep Americans safe. And the only way we're going to do that is if we get a larger percentage majority in the House, we flip the Senate, and we win back the White House. I mean, that's how we're going to strengthen America, strengthen our relationship with our allies, and push our adversaries back. That's the only way this works.
Nancy Mace, we have one comment or a question actually from a listener. Says you chose to do a town hall in Northern Beaufort the same night as our quarterly GOP meeting where both your opponents were. Why did you choose not to come? I'm
Say
not
that
sure.
again. I'm sorry.
You chose to do a town hall in Northern Beaufort the same night as our quarterly GOP meeting, where both your opponents were. Why did you choose not to come?
I didn't debate any of my opponents in the Republican primary. I held a lot of town halls. This is my 5th election in 4 years, and I have public town halls all the time, and constituents can come out and ask us any question. Everyone knows my record, my voting record, etc. And we have had events every single week, it feels like, for months now, all open to the public, all parties, and everyone knows our record. So our opponents didn't have a record. They had a lot to prove to voters, and they proved to be unsuccessful. But folks know me, they know my record, and this was my 5th election in 4 years. And I apologize, Mike. They're calling me because I have another interview. I think we've gone over our time. I apologize.
No, not at all.
That's why they're buzzing me, because
tell them this is the House of Cards. This is important. Ladies and gentlemen.
It is. You're always important. Very much so.
Congresswoman Nancy Mace, thank you. And you're always
so
welcome.
much.
All right.
Thank you, sir. Bye.
Bye-bye. All right. Let's take a quick one.
Everything that rocks is right here. Right here.
Let's rock.
With Big Patriot Radio.
That's what I'm talking about.
So I think the comment, I wish I had just a little bit more time. Ivy, I appreciate you doing that. I think looking forward, and I was kind of leaning on that earlier about talking about moving into the general election. When it comes up to debates, I hope that, because there weren't any, I hope that doesn't happen. I think that's an important part of the process. And thank you, Ivy. Nancy, negative ads thanks to the Starboard group. That's right. In the Starboard group, man, they took an ass beating financially. I'd hate to be their accountant or their CFO or whatever, because it's not looking good for them after Tuesday night. All right, let's keep going. Our next guest, let's see, he is now in the green room. We'll bring him on here in just a minute. I want to go over real quickly. The show last week, I want to let y'all know about this. The show last week was mostly around the subject, you've been lied to. The stark revelations. Why does that sound strange? Revelations. Whatever. Anyway, around the coronavirus and evidence that the U.S. government, NIH, NIAID, WHO, and the CDC and others knew about this for decades. Even Pfizer, the drug manufacturer, had applied for and got the patent on the spike protein back in 1990. That is the vaccine. They did warp speed, supposedly, but it was already in hand back in 1990. Anyhow, our story has picked up some national coverage, and we were fortunate enough to have been featured on the Culture Crossroads podcast and television show that hadn't aired yet. Coming up next week, I believe it is. Special thank you to Andrew Southwick for inviting us, and I believe it's called the Beck Network, Beck TV Network. So thanks to them for having us out there. We hope you check it out. It'll be on soon.
Wickedness and filth this world has to offer.
Yeah. Rock music that shatters your bones. Big Patriot Radio.
That's some serious rock.
And you're responsible.
All right, our next guest, he is just finishing off a bottle of water back there in the green room. We'll get to him. Quick program note, you first heard it here, right? We told you about the ethics investigations into Beaufort County Director of Capital Improvements, Mr. Eric Larson. That was like a week or two ago. Well, since the show, he resigned from office. How about that? Anyway, next guest. He is the current House member from Anderson County, District 10 in the South Carolina General Assembly. He won his race Tuesday night against Pam Anthony. I'd like for you to please welcome Representative Thomas Beach to the show.
Hey, good sir. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Congratulations to you, my friend.
Thank you so much, Mike. I appreciate it. Now, I want to know when you're running for office. We need you at the state house.
Well, all things in due time, sir. All things in due time. That we'll cross that bridge. But it would be an honor to serve with folks like yourself that I've known for some time now. And this is another big win. I mean, you're going into your second term, right? Or is it third already?
No, this would be my second term. Yeah.
Second term. And yours is one of many for the Freedom Caucus. I'm not familiar with Pam Anthony, but if I'd like to hear from you about your race and the big win that you had.
Oh, that's a lot to unpack. So I had an opponent that was heavily backed and supported by dark money groups, a lot of money. I was outspent. It was crazy, 4 or 5 to 1. And you wouldn't know that if you look at her financials. Her financials says on her disclosures that she's only raised a few $1,000s and spent, I think, $4,000 on signs, and that's it. But all the text messages, all the mailers, she has a lot to put on her disclosures and has not since March. It was hundreds of thousands of dollars and she had a year and a half start because during my first time in office, shortly after getting kicked out of the Republican caucus for not signing the loyalty pledge, this group, Palmetto Truth Project, which we found out is Starboard Communications, which is the consultants for the House Republican leaders and many Republican members of the General Assembly. My race was very unique. Whenever we have a campaign, it's usually, one person versus another. But what made this election unique was because it was not her that I was really facing. It was the establishment in Columbia with all their resources and power behind her. I understood that PACs, political action committees, could not coordinate with campaigns because of finance laws. But her consultant is Starboard Communications. Starboard Communications is the people behind Palmetto Truth Project, and their office, Starboard Communications, is on the 5th floor of the Solomon Blatt building in Columbia. Now, Solomon Blatt building is the where all the legislators have an office, and you can find my office on the 3rd floor, but Starboard Communications is on the 5th floor with all House leadership. They're on the top floor. So it was they threw everything at me with so many lies and distortions, that I hate jobs, I hate teachers, I'm anti-Semitic.
Yeah.
They didn't, my father's Jewish. So, just a bunch of crazy lies. And I'm very grateful that usually politicians, they get a lot of that PAC money or from various associations like the Medical Association or Wine and Food Association, whatever. And so that money was turned off, and we didn't get that kind of help like you would normally get as a politician. But instead, that money was turned against us, and that money was spent on our opposition.
By the caucus, right?
The Republican caucus. The Republicans, actually, the caucus funded a lot of opposition campaigns. Somewhere between $2 to $3 million just went down the drain because not a single Freedom Caucus member lost re-election. We all held our seats, and then we gained some seats.
Well, that was I was going to ask you about that, and the Freedom Caucus, everyone who was running, and I guess only Adam was the one that wasn't running. Everybody else did, right?
So, well, we had a couple folks running for Congress. Stuart Jones. So
No, I mean Adam was the only one who. Oh, that's right. Stuart Jones and Adam.
yeah,
weren't
Adam
running.
Morgan. Yeah, they had their goodbye speech at the
Yeah.
State House, and
So all of you won. But
yes,
on the other hand, not all of Hyatt and Caskey's folks won. Does
yeah.
the Freedom Caucus leadership figure this is one of their biggest nights in the history of ever?
We are probably still recovering, but we're also celebrating because it says something about the citizens of South Carolina, the voters, the conservatives, the party itself, where everything was done to get rid of us, the
Mhm.
conservative wing
Mhm.
of the State House, and we grew. Um, I don't know if leadership took note.
Mhm.
I hope they have. You know, going back, I did not. I was not political, like going to GOP meetings or
Mhm.
um, involved with politics when I ran, and I didn't know a lot of the players at the State House when I ran. Um, and when this loyalty pledge came out, m- I guess it was aimed at another Freedom Caucus member named R.J. May, and when they forced us to sign this pledge, and I said no, uh, I think I became collateral damage in
Mhm.
a way because the loyalty pledge wasn't designed for me per se, but to get everybody on the same page. I mean,
Right.
they repeatedly said, "Hey, we're going to be this is a team sport. You need to be a team player."
Mhm.
And the problem with that is that I knew just because you got elected to office doesn't mean you're an angel and a saint. We're all human. We
Mm.
make
Oh no,
mistakes.
we're all. Yep.
Yeah. And so, but I knew that my job was to conserve life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. And so that's what makes me conservative. And if there was another Republican that would rob those rights through bad bills or bad legislation, I needed to have the freedom of speech to challenge that person.
Mhm.
And I felt that loyalty pledge took away that ability to challenge. And so, I wouldn't sign it, and neither did a lot of the conservatives.
Right.
And then it went downhill from there, but it turned out to be one of the best decisions I ever made.
Absolutely. One of our viewers, Helga, uh, just wrote in. I don't know if you can see that. She says at the last GOP meeting, the Beaufort legislation, and she may, I think, well, I'm not sure who, I don't know if that means the delegation or who that is, to be totally honest. Helga, if you could clear that up. Anyway, the Beaufort legislation badmouthed the Freedom Caucus something terrible with
Hmm.
them being committee leaders. Oh, okay. She's talking about the Beaufort County delegation. Uh, I'm praying for you all and your strategy. May God bless you all.
Well,
And yep,
let me
there she
give my
goes.
2 cents on that one. I've heard a lot of criticism about the Freedom Caucus and the tactics or the things on social media, but at the end of the day, look at the amendments we put on we put on the table.
Mhm.
It's she's I mean it's we none of our bills are heard or considered, and that's true. They don't want to hear what we have to say or
Mhm.
our ideas to propose. So whenever there's a bill that comes across our desks and we're going to vote on it, the Freedom Caucus caucuses. That means we get together in the morning and we read the bills and we look at the bill and we say, okay, what can we do to make this bill better? What are some ideas? For example, when when there was this public safety bill, I found language that would give illegal aliens occupational licenses. I firmly believe that we should be worrying about American citizens, South Carolina citizens first, families first, over illegal aliens. So my amendment to take out language on that bill, it's, I think everybody would agree with that. There was another argument where my amendment, we had taxpayer money being used to bribe children to get vaccinated for the COVID 19. Some families wanted not to vaccinate their kids, and here we have the government using your tax dollars to bribe students to do that. My amendment said you can't be using taxpayer dollars to do that. So my point is that let's look at the actual amendment that the Freedom Caucus proposes. And I know a lot of people, there's a lot of personalities. Oh, we're obstructionist. Oh, we're fringe. But, I just gave a couple of different examples of our amendments. And I don't think anybody would disagree with our amendments. What I think the Republicans don't like is egg on their face. 2023, during the budget debate, we asked every state-funded university, college, and we asked everyone, how much money are you spending on DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, this woke nonsense? Every university came back with, to the penny, on how much they were spending. The Freedom Caucus's amendment was to take away that money from those universities. We wanted to defund DEI. That was our amendment. Oh, but we're obstructionists. We're fringe.
Yeah.
And, we don't like our people don't like our tactics. The only people that don't like our tactics are people that vote against us and get embarrassed because they got to explain their votes. On the help,
you picked up 3 to 5 seats, I believe it is. So it looks like the tide is turning.
Yeah. We have people, a lot of Republicans will say, well, I co-sponsored a certain bill, but the bill might have a really good title. And then if you look at the innards, it's weak. It doesn't have teeth. It doesn't do anything, and so when the Freedom Caucus looks at it and say, okay, well, let's make this more conservative or better. Here's our amendments. And for whatever reasons, various reasons, the Republicans would vote against our amendments. And, they have all sorts of excuses, but at the end of the day, with the supermajority of Republicans, we should not be passing watered down leftist woke bills.
Sure.
And so we take a picture of the vote and we post it on social media and we let folks know this is the Republicans, the voting that does not reflect the party platform. And so we get called, accused and labeled all sorts of, the radicals and, clickbait, but we're about policy, trying to make good policy.
So let's look towards the future, and I want to look big picture. I'm kind of even though I like getting down in the weeds and into the tearing phrases apart, I want to look from a bigger point of view. You all are gaining seats. That's a positive for the Freedom Caucus. That's a positive for the effort, or the movement, rather. Now, with the upcoming session, here's a novel idea. Is there a way that, whether it's weekly or twice a week or bi-weekly, the chair of the Freedom Caucus and the chair of the Republican Caucus, Davey and whoever's the new chair, come together and sit down in an effort to maybe turn down some of the rhetoric that we would normally be hearing from the Democrats? Todd Rutherford and his rhetoric, Gildy Cobb Hunter, love her to death, but the rhetoric's crazy. We would normally hear that, but instead, last year we all got a huge dose of, a battle between the same party. If they could come together, just a novel idea, and talk about things, and to not get everybody out of whack, if you will, staying true to your values. I'm not saying give up any values at all, but work better across those values. Is that something that's even possible?
Well, I would love, and so would the conservative wing of the Republican legislation, be able to be in the room. The Republicans, I remember when the chairman put his hand on my shoulder to block me from entering the closed door meetings and told me I wasn't welcome. We've been asked not to participate in these conversations, and they've been actively trying to get rid of us. And so, I think the ball is in the Republican caucus's court. I would like to see us push, not just push, but to lead the nation on good conservative legislation. I would love to see election integrity. I would love
Real integrity.
Yes. I would like to see the property tax. I would like to see property taxes. Somebody came to my door. Eliminated. Income tax. I'm sorry, the income tax eliminated. I think one of the top priorities for myself is, and I heard this from a couple other Freedom Caucus members, to end earmarks. It is the currency of corruption down in Colombia.
Right.
And what I've seen is, if you want to rock the boat or don't toe the line, your district isn't going to get funding. And it's I would like to see somehow where we get rid of earmarks, or maybe to the point where, okay, every member gets X amount of dollars, and if you want to fund something, that's on you, or you can work with another representative to fund a bigger project, that's on you. But stop holding earmarks over legislators' heads. We should be representing the people. We shouldn't be representing what House leaders want us to do.
Couldn't agree more. Could not agree more. Thomas, we're running up on a hard stop. Ladies and gentlemen, District 10, winner of the Republican primary up in Anderson County, Freedom Caucus member, Republican Thomas Beach, here with us. Thank you so much, Thomas. And don't forget, you're always welcome here, and we want to have you back. Do you have a race in November, or are you ready to go?
I have a race when there's the woke left, the uniparty, the establishment. As long as we're the underdogs, there will always be a fight. Go to beachforhouse.com. Please donate. I need to make sure that I can hold the seats,
Absolutely,
because the fight's not over.
There you go. Thomas Beach, ladies and gentlemen, thank you again, sir.
Thank you.
All right. All right. We have another guest who is in the green room. We're going to bring her on. She is from Horry County, recently a candidate in the South Carolina House District 61 Republican primary. Unfortunately, she lost to the incumbent, a gal by the name of Carla, I guess I'm saying this right, Schuessler. Please welcome to the show again, Shannon Grady. Shannon, how are you?
I'm doing great. I tell you what.
Good to see you. I wish we were saying, blowing horns and everything, but it's still good to see you. And I know if anybody's got a positive attitude, it's you.
Yes. In fact, ironically, Tuesday night, I actually knew that it wasn't meant to be. It wasn't God's plan. And by Tuesday late, I already knew what God wanted me to do, and I'm already on that mission. Got
Look at
35
that.
people already lined up in a group. I'm going to be working across the state, but especially here in Horry County, to identify not only future candidates, but to actually start a grassroots movement of door knockers and people that know how to get out the vote and who
Wow.
are serious about taking back our Republican from our Republican Party from these rhinos and Democrats. My opponent, Carla Schuster, is a Democrat. Pure and
Yeah.
simple.
Has been for a long time.
Yeah, she tried to send out a mailer saying that I'd lied about her voting for Hillary. But the fact of the matter is, all of her neighbors, all of her friends, and of course her former cohorts at the Democratic Women's Group all said she volunteered for Hillary and was a big Hillary supporter. But you know what? If she didn't pull the lever for Hillary when she voted in the 2016 Democratic presidential election, maybe she voted for Bernie the Socialist Sanders. I don't think that's better.
Dumb and Dumber.
She donated to Nikki Haley in 23. And of course, so that means she voted for Nikki Haley in the primary against Donald Trump. And yet Donald Trump was tricked into, giving this blanket endorsement to her and others. But
was that a Russell Fry thing, you think?
No, it wasn't Fry. This is a Merle Smith
Okay.
and Walter Wetzel kind of deal. I think they came together and got some money put into a PAC for Trump, and that's kind of how that went down. But I too was outspent. I think rough numbers between what she spent out of her own campaign and what we estimate was spent from the PACs. 27 mailers came out in my district from her or from the PACs. So that's over $100,000 in mailers. We're estimating a rough estimate of about $260,000 and to 50,000 of my side of that. So 5 to 1. Yeah. But better days ahead.
Oh, absolutely. And you, now let me get back to that. You were putting together a grassroots operation across the state. We've got tons of people across 4 different platforms watching, but I know of, I could probably 10 folks that are on here, at least from my own area, who are awesome at that. And hopefully, and you ladies actually know who
I'm going to be working with Evan. If you know who Evan is.
Okay. So maybe they'll
get out. Yeah, it's definitely a Freedom Caucus thing.
There you go.
And I'm calling my group down here in ORE. We're going to call it Americans for Liberty, and I might even change it to HAL, short for ORE Americans for Liberty, because I've got some folks who were really fired up and very upset about how she voted and who she really is, a Democrat. But sadly, Michael, everybody in our district, everybody in our county is either a named Democrat or they're a rhino, all of them. Yeah. So we're going to make sure. Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. You finish.
So we're going to make sure in 2 years that every single one of the House members in this district, in this county, are primaried. All of them.
So with that, all that being said, I guess first, do you believe that, Schuessler's, and I'm going to call it smear attempts, that's what it is.
Yeah. Did
that work, or are voters in ORE either naive or just they don't understand how the game works?
One thing is we had a terribly low turnout. Voters are not voting. Out of 40,000 people in my district, only 2,434 bothered to vote. That's dismal. That can't be what happens and expect things to change. But secondly, if you look at the early voting and the mail-in ballots, I beat her. I was beating her there. I had several people call me and say, "Oh, you're winning." I said, "Guys, are you just looking at the early vote? I've already seen the count. She's won." So what that told me is how she beat me was in the last 2 weeks. She had the Americans for Prosperity guys were knocking on the doors, and I had somebody actually with them. They had the call on mute, so they couldn't hear me, but I could hear everything being said. And the guys literally at the door calling me a liar. I mean, verbatim. She's a liar. She's lied about Carla being a Democrat. She lied about Carla voting for Hillary. She lied about how she voted in this. I mean, that liar over and over again. Yeah. Well, that's in the last 2 weeks. Mike, I don't have time to go back and re-knock on all those doors to correct that information. So that's what killed me.
Do you plan or do you foresee getting back into this again?
100%. 100%. I'm undeterred.
That is that's awesome.
Yeah.
Did you have any conversations with folks in Columbia that are already part of either the establishment and or the Freedom Caucus? And I know you mentioned Evan. I believe you mean Evan. What's his last name?
Newman. Yeah.
So have you talked to both sides? Everybody's clear where Shannon Grady stands and what you can bring to the table?
Well, I'll put it to you this way. Tim McGinnis, who is another state house rep down here, stood up at Carla's celebration party, what do you want to call it, and badmouthed me. And he's a member of that Republican caucus. And truthfully, at the point in time that was occurring, I was going to be focused on one thing and one thing only, and that was me and what I was going to do and trying to deal with getting Carla out of there. But after he did that, it hit me like this, and I said, these Republican rhinos have not learned their lesson.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to make it my mission to find candidates to run against all 63 of them. And I can't do this in a vacuum, so I'm going to need everybody in every county. But, it's only $208 to file to run.
That's
So,
right.
and I literally said, if I have to drag somebody off the street who's a homeless guy and give him a place to stay so he can run, I'll do it. I mean, I'm tired of this. I'm going to make them spend money.
And the interesting thing, when you sit back and look at it from a wide angle lens, this is exactly what Democrats were talking about like 2 years ago here in South Carolina. They said, hey, these Republicans are kicking our ass. We're going to throw, and they did. They threw everybody the kitchen sink. I mean, I can only speak for local races in my county, but I mean, every race had somebody, whether they were serious or not, and I can only assume they are, but it's good to hear that because that worked for the Democrats, and I hear you.
Yeah, I'm trying to work with some business people as well, and we're going to put together some money for these candidates that we're going to go out and research and bring in. Just like the Palmetto Truth Group and all those other dark money entities were out there offering $50,000 to candidates who run against Freedom Caucus candidates. Well, what's good for the goose is good for the gander.
Absolutely.
So let's flip it. All I'm going to say to Tim McGinnis is you better find $250,000, buddy, because we're coming for you.
What about the two senators from Horry County? Where are they on this?
Two of them, all of them are bad. We don't have a good member of any delegation. I don't care if it's a Republican. Luke Rankin's terrible. Greg Hembry's terrible. Stephen Goldfinch's terrible. We don't have a decent conservative in the entire county. Not one. None. The best we can hope for is William Bailey. He's a moderate. I'll grant him that. He's a moderate. And that's it. It goes steeply downhill from there.
Now, we have talked about this, and it's no secret. The Horry County GOP has had its issues over the last decade.
Still do. That's
nothing changed.
Nope. No, they got new leadership, and they're just as blindly ignorant to the realities of life as anybody else. It's pretty sad. And what you have is some people that are not even from South Carolina who've come in, and now they've gotten in leadership positions, and their heads have gotten about this big, and they're making statements like, "We're going to kick everybody out if you're a member of any group not aligned with the state party. We're going to kick you out." And he was specifically talking about the My SC GOP crowd. Now, whether you support them or don't support them, that's what 350, 400 people. So you're going to kick them out of the state, but you're not even from here. How about we kick you out of the state? Don't kick people out of the state. Learn how to work with people.
Yeah.
Because the bottom line is every single person, whether you're in the caucus, that's the Freedom Caucus, or whether you're in the Republican caucus, you ought to be focused on what is constitutional, what is right. Instead, we have people doing things it's just not even constitutional. And Michael actually made the point. I said, if I'm elected, I'm not going to promise you I'm going to fix your roads or build your schools or doing these things because I'm one person with one vote. Here's what I'll promise you. If it's not constitutional, my vote will be no. Period. Full stop. And I had somebody tell me, well, you can't be like that. And I said, are you kidding me? Well, no, you got to go up there and be able to work with them. I said, so you want me to pass a bill or agree to a bill that violates the Constitution, and that's okay? Let me break it down to you, baby girl. I'm a United States Navy veteran, and I raised my little right hand, and I took an oath to protect, defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, both foreign and domestic. And that oath had no expiration date.
That's right.
I will never, one time, sign on to a law that's unconstitutional.
I couldn't agree more. And I don't know if you were listening when Thomas' speech was on.
I did.
Okay. The one thing that, as I was running up against the hard stop there, I had asked him about, this is a novel idea, but how about the two of these factions, the two heads get together? I think that you can tell me if you agree with this or not. You can work together to come up with whatever it is. Okay, let's just say it's roads for everybody's affected.
Right.
You can work together. If you're against, you're against each other in theory, you can still work together to come up for a common goal. Now, there are things that are full stops, like you said, constitutionality, morality.
Right.
We all have our different buttons. But do you agree that the attempt of both sides, Davey Hyatt and would have been Adam Morgan, but whoever fills that in,
sure,
be able to talk together prior to putting on a clown show for the general public on the floor of the House?
I am 100% confident that anybody in the Freedom Caucus would tell you they'd be willing to sit down and talk with the Republican caucus. But I'm also equally confident that nobody in the Republican caucus is going to do that because they're stubborn, they're bullheaded,
yep,
and they're not going to want to give any ground, which is why it's important that the Republican Party understand that as the Freedom Caucus grows across this state and we get more and more numbers, we're going to simply vote you guys out. So you can either come to the table and negotiate for what's best for the people of South Carolina, or what's best for the people of South Carolina is going to be you're going to get voted out. It's as simple as that.
Simple as that. One of our listeners, or viewers rather, Nancy makes a comment here on the screen. I don't know if you can see it. Freedom Caucus for the people. They're not owned by the lobbyists and corporations. I have to agree with that.
Yes.
And unfortunately, there are folks I have some colleagues that are in the Republican caucus, not in the Freedom Caucus, that I can work with. We converse, we talk about it, and that's fine. Then there are some, Micah Caskey, naming one, he's got to leave mommy's basement. Yeah. That's the kind of mentality. That mentality doesn't work with anybody and won't. So, we need to, if there's going to be an argument, it needs to be between on the floor with a Democrat, not amongst ourselves. They need to find a way to pull up their big boy panties and their big girl panties, and let's move this ball forward for the people, constitutionally and morally, etc.
Yeah, I couldn't have just. I mean, I agree with you totally on that. But the problem, as I see it, is I'll give you a quick example. This help not harm bill. I talked with Representative Jordan Pace repeatedly about exactly what happened, exactly how this all came to be, and he told me when he was in the committee that he wanted to make it a felony to surgically castrate kids. Now, I mean, that's a no-brainer as far as I can tell. I mean, how can anybody disagree with that? But he was told that if you do that, it will not make it out of committee. So subsequently, he made it a misdemeanor. It gets to the floor, as you well know, the amendment to make it a misdemeanor if you surgically, castrate a child, that was voted down by the 63 Republicans. And then that went out as a photograph to Riley Gaines. And of course, as you know, Riley Gaines sent it out as a tweet and so on. So the rest is history. Now, my opponent, Carlos Schuster, said, oh, no. The reason I voted it down because we wanted to make it a felony. Well, you're a liar and the truth's not in you. Because if you wanted it to be a felony, Carlos Schuster, you would have gotten up and gone to the well while they were still debating this. And you'd have said, I would like to make a motion that would change this amendment from a misdemeanor to a felony. But you didn't do that because that's not what you wanted. And they still didn't make it a felony, Michael. What they did is they took another felony that already existed, maiming, and they just attached it to that. But if you're a lawyer, you can 5 seconds figure out how you're going to get out of that. The transgender bill is going up against $140 billion industry annually. $140 billion annually. If you don't think those doctors aren't going to go ahead and say, we're going to do this anyway, and then get a lawyer to step in and say, well, you're violating this child's civic rights by telling him or her that they cannot change their gender. And so therefore you can't charge this doctor with maiming because he was actually doing gender affirming care. The way to fix that would have been to make it a felony all on its own to chemically or surgically castrate a child. But they didn't have the courage to do that because we have a bunch of weak spined, no spine rhinos.
Shannon Grady from Horry County, you're a true patriot. And as always, this is your second time, I guess, being on here on such short notice. I greatly appreciate it. You're always welcome here to share your voice. Don't forget her name. She's still around.
Yes.
Shannon Grady, thank you so much for being on the House of Cards.
Thank you.
All right.
Locked and loaded.
Let's go.
Big Patriot Radio. Blues, news, country pop, and classic rock.
And let's see here. We got Helga, Mike, ask your Republican caucus friends. Come to the table. want to read that real quick. Now, that is, I'm glad you said that. And I really don't want to comment because I'm doing that. But this, how do you eat an elephant? Well, one bite at a time, just like an apple. So that's all I'll say with that is we're working on that. So anyway, I'm excited to bring on our next guest. Got another guest for you. Take a quick, 5 seconds, get yourself a drink real quick. A little bit of sweet tea there. Our guest he's been patiently waiting back in the green room back there. Plenty of sweet tea, non-alcoholic sweet tea, by the way, and our famous House of Cards brownies. I want to introduce this gentleman. He's a native of Walterboro, South Carolina. He began his career teaching as an English teacher, I understand, then went on to own and operate the first African-American owned newspaper in Colleton County. 8 years later, I believe, a few here or there, 8 years, I guess, he received his Juris Doctorate and began a legal career, currently practicing law out of Walterboro, South Carolina, and can be seen, I'm not kidding you, at practically every event across the Lowcountry. He is everywhere. He is absolutely talking to people nonstop. Please join me in welcoming Republican candidate for United States House, Congress, South Carolina District 6, Mr. Duke Buckner.
Yes, sir. Hey, Mike, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing well, sir. I appreciate you on such a short notice coming on here. I want to say congratulations.
Thank you
on that big win Tuesday night over Justin Scott. How does it feel to finally having that over with and behind you, and now you can concentrate on Jim Clyburn?
Well, I tell you, first, I always like to thank the good Lord for giving me an opportunity to be on your show, and thank you, Mike, for allowing me to be here. Also want to thank my opponent, Justin Scott. He ran an excellent campaign from start to finish. He got 46% of the vote. Matter of fact, I talked to Justin yesterday, and we're all on the same page that we need to come together to defeat an institution that has been pressing and holding down the 6th congressional district for over 30 years, and that's James Clyburn. And so we are ready to do everything we can to give him the early retirement. Well, he should have been gone a long time ago, but, we're going to give him a chance to go into retirement in November, sir.
Let me ask you that. You all had a non-eventful, is that fair to say, campaign? I mean, there was no slugfest. There was no, shit talking. I mean, it was just a campaign. How did you all do that? But, so many of these across the state, I mean, were expensive slobber knockers. How did you do it?
Well, I know my team, we focused on the issues, talking about what we are going to do as congressmen and not putting down the other person personally. So we dealt with the issues and what we can bring to the table. And we just agreed to do that. Justin agreed to do that. I agreed to do that. So there was no mudslinging, that's just not how folks want to know what you're going to do, not putting down the other person, so.
Gotcha.
Yes, sir.
So, Mr. Buckner, the 6th district, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it is the largest district of the 7 in the state.
Yes,
14 counties.
14 counties.
14 counties. Would you agree that with all of this talk by Democrats about CD1, Nancy Mace's area being gerrymandered and took them to the Supreme Court and all that, they really shouldn't throw rocks while living in a glass house, as Mama used to say? Because if you look at that map of those 14 counties, District 6 is obviously,
yes,
Stevie Wonder could see it, carved out for Jim Clyburn.
Yes, sir. That was done over 30 some years ago. And I make this comment. If they had a picture in the dictionary of a gerrymandered district, District 6 would be the one that they would have a picture of,
Very true.
And again, it's 14 counties from Jasper all the way up to Florence County. They basically just took a piece here, piece there, and pieced it together so that Mr. Clyburn could and a Democrat could always win that seat. And as a result of that, the 6th district is the poorest congressional district in South Carolina. It is one of the poorest congressional districts in the country. I think the last time when I ran it was number 7, 7th poorest district in the state of South Carolina. The median income is $45,000. The national average is like 60. So we're $15,000, almost $20,000 below the national average. So people are working hard and making less and struggling to be able to put a roof over their head and feed their family.
Absolutely.
And that's got to change. And it will change.
Now, 14 counties, we know Jim Clyburn will not get to every county.
Right.
I'd bet 2 donuts on it that Duke Buckner will get to all 14 counties.
Yeah.
How do you do that and speak with as many people as possible when you've got such a sparse area and you could go for tens and tens and tens of miles and not see anything but corn or cotton or snakes? How do you do that? I mean, that's,
Well, we started our campaign September of last year, and we visited and talked to all 14 counties except for Allendale. We weren't able to make some connections in Allendale, but this time when I ran 2 years ago, we started in Allendale. So that was because I don't know if you've been to Allendale, but they really have some economic challenges in Allendale. But I believe folks are waking up and saying, hold on a second. 4 years ago, I was doing a lot better than I am now. And they are saying, we want better. We don't want more of the same. And so to answer your question, I have a team, I would call it one of the best campaign staffs any candidate can have. And we go out and we keep working and we go everywhere. We talk to people. We carry the conservative message of freedom and opportunity for all Americans. And people are listening and they're taking note and they're saying, I'm tired of being sick and tired, Mike.
Absolutely. I was on county council here in Beaufort County, and I didn't, going back to right before I was on council, I was not aware of the economic situation in Allendale as I became when I was on county council. I guess it's Allendale Fairfax or whatever.
Yes, Allendale Fairfax. Yes, sir.
So the high school, one of the coaches, football coaches, who happened to be a young lady, the school system couldn't afford uniforms.
Yes.
Okay. I had talked with a good friend of mine, BJ Payne, over at Hilton Head, and they had plenty of leftovers and they gave them to him. And I got to thinking about this, Duke. I said, this is, at that time, it was like 2015, 2016. If we're in this day and age and they can't afford football pants and a couple of helmets and some pads, what in the world's going on? And the common denominator always from that point forward fell at the feet of Jim Clyburn.
Yes, he is the quote unquote CEO of the 6th congressional district. He is the voice of the 6th district in Washington, D.C. And the main argument I've been making is that with his rank being at one point the 3rd ranking Democrat in the House of Representatives, the majority whip under the Obama administration, all this rank and all this power and influence, but the district is the poorest in the state. And again, one of the poorest in the country. So his influence in Washington hasn't resulted in the people that he serves doing better economically. Why is it that the other parts of the state is booming? There's opportunities, there's jobs, there are factories, there are businesses. In the 6th district, you got closed factories, downtowns that look like ghost towns.
Yep.
Roads that hadn't anything been done to them in 20, 30 years. I mean, I'm sorry, Mike, I'm getting a little more. It's a shame. It's a shame the neglect of the 6th congressional district. And that's why I'm running, because it's time for that to end. And folks need to have the same opportunities as other people have, because more and more people are leaving the district in order to work.
Yeah.
And that's why places like Bamberg and Allendale and Calhoun and Clarendon and Williamsburg and all these counties, Colleton, where I'm from, population is going down, and folks are leaving.
Yeah.
Because they got to find a place to work.
I drive through places, Denmark.
Yes.
And, which, decades ago was bustling. And the place is, it's sad. But let me tell you, your passion is being noticed. People are noticing your passion. Brings me to my next question.
Yes, sir.
This passion that you have, obviously you've got to get into the people's minds that are out there pulling the lever, or
Yes,
shows my age. I guess now they push the button. Anyway, there's a lot of folks in the 6th district who have either been told or brainwashed or both that you have to vote Democrat. Why is that?
Well, there's a long history of why a lot of African Americans have historically voted for the Democratic Party. But now more and more African Americans are waking up and seeing that, hold on a second, we have been loyal to this party. We've voted for this party. We've sacrificed for this party. They've made promises to us, and they're not keeping their promises. We're in the same condition now as we were 30 years ago.
Absolutely.
And they're saying, we're the days of voting straight Democrat ticket is over.
Yeah.
And they're now saying, we're going to start voting for the person and not the party. Who is the best candidate who can represent our interests, and who's going to be a man or a woman of their word, to do what they say what they mean what they say, and get some jobs and growth in industry.
Amen.
To the area. And I'm saying I have the skills. I've worked hard my whole life, man. I started at McDonald's.
Yeah.
I worked at Pizza Hut washing dishes from sun up to sundown. I was a stockman at Walmart and Kmart, cleaning bathrooms and getting buggies. And so I know, what it is to work hard for everything that I have. And when you are squaring up every morning, playing by the rules, and you're doing the right thing, and you're suffering and you can't make ends meet, and you look around and everybody else is booming and doing well, you start looking and say, man, what's going on? And the issue is you have people who are actually keeping growth, keeping opportunities from coming into this district. And I'm saying it's time for that to end.
Absolutely. When I get the opportunity to talk about, you had mentioned race, when I get the opportunity to talk about racial divides in the country or this county or the region or whatever, especially along political lines, when I get the chance to talk in front of or with groups of people that may not look like I do, I love, and I did it earlier, as a matter of fact, tonight, I think with Nancy Mace, matter of fact, I love telling the story of Robert Smalls. Robert Smalls from right here in Beaufort County, right here in the Low Country, how he was, he's really the father of Republicanism in South Carolina. The fact, Duke, that a man who was born a slave went on to get his family freed, fought in a war, basically started a political party in this state, went on to serve in the South Carolina House, the South Carolina Senate. He amassed a great deal of wealth for, that time period in pre and post Reconstruction era. That's one hell of a story.
Yes.
Do you feel telling stories like that across the 6th district is something that should be or could be done to say to people, hey, let's get rid of the stigmatism of the Republican Party? Because in South Carolina, the Republican Party started looking like us.
Yes. I've been saying that for the last 2 years, that Robert Smalls is a founder of the South Carolina Republican Party.
Yeah.
And as a result of that, we started a coalition called the South Carolina Roberts Falls Republican Coalition. Is a recognized auxiliary of the South Carolina Republican Party. And I tell that story everywhere I go, and people are beginning to listen. Now, the argument they always say is, well, the party switched and it's not the same. And I say, no, the parties did not switch. No, the Democrats are still the party of racial division, because that's all they talk about. They want to divide folks on race. They want to divide folks economically. They want to divide folks on gender. They're the party that is causing the racial division in the country, because that's how they thrive. That's what they do in order to stay in political power. And more people, at least when I'm talking to more African Americans, they're saying that the Democratic Party has left me. It's swung so far to the left. You got progressive Democrats that have taken over the party. Yeah. And many African Americans are saying, I no longer recognize this party. They've swung so far to the left that I'm independent now. And so they're not lockstep with the Democratic Party anymore.
Duke, the 6th district has been named, and I don't like, it's been a while. Some people call it the corridor of shame.
Yes.
It's been quite a while. When you're in Congress, how are you going to get rid of that moniker by bringing, wealth, health, prosperity to everyone in the 6th district?
Yes. Well, the first thing we got to do, Mike, is deal with the $34 trillion of national debt. That we have to address that, because that national debt is resulting in our country not being able to make the investments, not being able to do the things that we need to do for roads and bridges and infrastructure. And that debt is also attributing to the inflation that we have. So we got to deal with the national debt by, 1, we have to stop frivolous spending. 2, we need to have a balanced budget amendment to the Constitution. 3, we need to, all this foreign aid that's going all over the place, we got to start prioritizing that and looking at taking care of our own citizens and our own veterans and our own soldiers and our own people before we start sending money all over the place. And then once we do all of that, I believe, and of course, give the president a line item veto so that he can, veto these exorbitant spending packages, but yet the bill can continue to go forward. Once we get our financial house in order, then the second thing, and we know this to be a fact, we have to reduce the taxes and regulations on businesses and corporations. The Biden administration, in his State of the Union, he said he wanted to raise the corporate tax rate to 21%, which is astronomically way too high. That is going to de-incentivize businesses, cause folks not to expand or hire people. And that is going to result in more closed businesses, more closed factories, instead of reducing the tax rate to below 15%. Now businesses have more an incentive to go out and hire more people, expand their operations, start a business, which is what we need in the 6th district. So those 2 things alone, the debt and reducing the corporate tax rate and regulations on businesses, that will spark economic, I'm going to say, revolution in the 6th congressional district.
Now, you're going to need to have relationships with county delegations, all really 14, across the 6th district, as well as county councils, town councils, a host of school boards. Have you had a chance to think, okay, when I'm in Congress, I plan to meet with, be with, or maybe even Zoom with those folks at every opportunity? Because if you're going to be able to do federally, from federal dollars to try to get industry back, there needs to be a close knit with people like the Southern Carolina Alliance, different county councils. Are you going to be able to handle, all of that?
Yes, sir. Well, one of the things, just to talk about the nonprofit side, Mike, the 6th district should qualify for everything. You understand?
It should be a nonprofit.
Should qualify for everything. Yeah. There's no reason why we shouldn't have more and more
Yeah.
federal dollars flowing to nonprofit organizations. Okay, so one of the things I'm going to do as congressman is I'm going to have a person in my office whose primary role is to help nonprofits get federal dollars to be able to help fulfill whatever their purpose is that's going to benefit the community. Many individuals and organizations and nonprofits, when they sit down to try to fill out a grant, that grant is so cumbersome, it is so difficult, it's so challenging that many of them just say, you know what, this is just too much. I can't even fill it out. It's too cumbersome. A lot of times they don't even know when the application is due, the deadlines, and all these things. And so I want to have somebody in my office whose primary role is to help nonprofits and get more money from the federal government flowing into nonprofit organizations to help the 6th congressional district. The second thing I want to do, as you mentioned, I want to meet with the mayors and the county councils via Zoom and tell them, say, listen, go back to your community, find out what it is that people want, have a plan of growth and prosperity and how you want things to be in your community and in your county and in your town. And then I can take that plan and do everything I can to make sure that the money can flow to get these projects up and going that's going to benefit the community. And that's how I plan to do that.
Outstanding. You know, even though the 6th district, and we're coming into our end of our time, the 6th district is wide, long. You've got some places that are healthy and maybe not wealthy, but close to it. Then you've got some that are not healthy and they're not wealthy. They're diametrically different. Even though the 6th district has a lot of commonalities, there are a lot of differences. I don't believe you could treat the people, Walterboro, for example, the same way. And maybe I shouldn't use the word treat. You know, the situations in Walterboro and the situations in Estill or Fairfax are different. That's a lot of hats. How can you wear so many hats? One place that I don't know if it ever got fixed, but I call it Clyburn's problem. Was it Denmark that had the water issue?
Yes, they got brown drinking water in Denmark, and I was in Hampton County talking to the clerk of court in Hampton, and she said, Mr. Butler, we got brown drinking water in Estill. So, and that's a shame. I told her one of the things that's priority one. You're American. We're not a third world country. There's no reason for any municipality that's got a water system to be putting out brown drinking water. She says it smells. You wash your clothes, they come out brown. It smells, and it's an embarrassment. So those are priorities that have to be addressed and have to be fixed. They should have been fixed a long time ago, Mike. But again, folks thrive on keeping people oppressed, and it's time for that to change. And so, one of the issues that is part of the entire district is crime in the major urban areas such as Richland County and Columbia and North Charleston. In Orangeburg, they're dealing with murders, robberies, property thefts, and that's an issue that we can fix by making sure that money is flowing into law enforcement agencies so that they can do community policing, that they've got the technology and everything they need to be able to build the relationships in the community and help stop the crime, slow it down. And the main issue we can do on a federal level to stop that is to shut down and secure our southern border and stop the flow of illegal drugs coming into our community, because that's what is the how can I say it? The crime, a lot of it has to do with drugs.
Absolutely.
People who are shooting and killing, they're not in their right mind. And they're not in their right mind because they're under the influence of drugs or alcohol. And so we've got to have a zero tolerance policy for people who are bringing illegal drugs and poisoning the community, and also help folks who are addicted to drugs have more drug and alcohol abuse centers so that people who want help can get help and be able to get off those drugs.
It's absolutely correct. And we talk about that a lot here. We also talk about trafficking is a huge problem. Just this past Tuesday, I believe it was, Beaufort County arrested 3 males charged with human and sex trafficking. That's happening in Walterboro. That's happening in Orangeburg.
Yes.
Whatever we have to do, and I don't have all the answers. I don't have any of the answers actually, but we need to do that. Now, Duke, we're certainly wanting to have you back on here as many times as we can prior to the election in November. But 2 final questions, and I ask these of all first-time guests. First, why you and not Jim?
Well, Mr. Clyburn will be 84 years old in July. He's been in Congress for over 30 years. And again, his district has not benefited as a whole from his tenure and his clout in Washington, D.C. And I'm saying he's already done what he can do. He's showed you what he can do. And I'm asking the good people of the 6th Congressional District to give me an opportunity to show you what I can do. And if you don't like if I can't turn the situation around and make your life better in 2 years, then vote me out and put somebody else in that you think can do a better job. But I'm going to work hard to bring jobs, opportunity, economic growth to the 6th District. And that's why I think individuals should give me an opportunity to be their congressman in November.
Last question. Are you having fun yet?
Oh, I'm having a lot of fun. Listen, every place I go and talk to people and hear their concerns. And, I was talking to one lady. She was saying, Duke, they're giving the illegals all kind of benefits. They get housing, they get medical, they getting free food and cell phones. And here I am working 2-3 jobs and I can't get a dime. I can't get any help at all. And I said, man, we're going to change that when I'm your congressman, because that's wrong. We should be treating citizens with respect and with love and with dignity. And we're not doing that when we treat foreigners who are in our country illegal better than our own citizens. And Mike, I just want to close with this. In order to win this election, I need your financial support to keep this message of freedom and opportunity in the forefront of people's minds throughout the district. And I'm asking folks, $5, $10, whatever you can. If you can sacrifice a cup of coffee or ice cold beer or whatever it is to make a donation to my campaign, please do that. You can go to voteforduke.com, make a donation, sign up to volunteer. We need your help because it's time for Jim and Joe to go in 24.
I love that. I got it on the screen. Voteforduke.com.
Voteforduke.com.
Duke Buckner, ladies and gentlemen, get out and support him. This guy, not only is he charismatic, but he's passionate about the 6th District. And you folks that are watching in the 6th District, forever, I've been here 30 some years and it's always been the same. Let's make a change. Yes. Duke Buckner can be that change and, get him in Congress and let's end Clyburn's disastrous, but appreciate his 30 years. But it's time to go.
Yes. Yeah. Listen, he has done, historical preservation. He gets an A+ for that,
Absolutely.
Getting money for HBCUs. He gets an A+ for that. But as it relates to jobs and economic growth and prosperity for the 6th District, that hasn't been his focus.
No.
Mike, there are people who need new roofs on their homes. There are people who need new floors. I've been in neighborhoods that will literally break your heart how you see how folks are living. And it's not that they want to be that way. They want better, but there's no opportunities. There are no good paying jobs. People are driving an hour and a half to get to work today.
Yeah.
When gas is up, when Trump was in office, it was under $2 a gallon.
Yeah.
Now it's well over $3, and people are working just to buy gas.
Yep.
To put in the car, man. And I'm just saying we can do better. We deserve better. And I'm asking folks to give me a chance to go up to Washington, D.C. to help keep us free and to expand opportunity and lift us up from the bottom of the barrel where we've been for the last 30 years.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Duke Buckner for the 6th District. Thank you so much for being
Thank
on
you,
here.
Mike. God bless you, sir.
God bless you as
Yeah.
well. Thank you so much.
Everything that rocks is right here. Right here.
Let's rock.
With Big Patriot Radio.
That's what I'm talking about.
All right. And we left his website up there, voteforduke.com. Really like him. I've known him for a while, and I've heard him speak, and I've been everywhere I would go when I was campaigning. It seems like he was there. The guy he's part of the people. He is out there. Anyway, all right, it is 30 minutes past the hour. A lot of things happening election day this week. I want to go break these down for you as fast as we can. We talked about the Republican nomination in CD1. Nancy Mace bested Catherine Templeton 57% to 30. And when I give you these numbers, the percentages, okay? Bill Young, who did far better than I thought he was going to do, and I'm proud of him, 13% of the vote. He's a great guy, good man, and I think he benefited actually from the mudslinging between the two ladies. That's how he benefited. That's my opinion. I predicted 6 to 7% of the vote, and he got 13. Now, the Democrat side, Michael Moore squeaked by Mac DeFord, 51-49. A mere 600 votes separated those two. Let's see what else. When you look at the total number of votes cast in the first congressional district, more than double South Carolina voters that are GOP came out, voted than did Democrats. Now, this is going to obviously change somewhat come November, but to say the Democrats right now have an uphill battle is an understatement. You definitely don't want to discount them. But it is an uphill battle. Elsewhere in the state, the Freedom Caucus, we talked about this. The South Carolina House made a blanket statement as all of the Freedom Caucus members who ran won. South Carolina GOP or the Republican caucus members didn't fare well against them at all. Neither did ones they were supporting. This happening in the most expensive House races in history. The amount of millions of dollars that was spent is staggering. The GOP caucus spent what I consider a shit ton of money against the Freedom Caucus members, and also the PAC spent it and put it all in lump into one. It ended up being a complete waste of money. Notable GOP caucus members who will now say goodbye. Jay West of House District 7 got pounded 64-36 to Lee Gilreath, and I believe is supported by the Freedom Caucus. Longtime Representative Bill Sandifer, District 2 in Oconee County, barely lost 51-49 to Adam Duncan, a 70-vote split there. That's how close that was. Sandifer, one of the establishment members. Some of the other important ones in District 6, Anderson County, Freedom Caucus member April Cromer edged out establishment, supported Kylie White. Many folks were predicting Kylie White to best the incumbent. Anyway, April won that 56-44. Thomas Beach, again, we had him on here, another Freedom Caucus member, easily bested Pam Anthony 67-33 in their upstate battle. Freedom Caucus member Alan Morgan, brother of former Chair Adam Morgan of Greenville, beat Tremaine Booker 60-40 in the District 18 contest. District 19, Patrick Haddon, another great representative from Greenville, beat Nate Marcianet 83-17, just a slobber knocker. GOP caucus stronghold in House Ways and Means Chair Bruce Bannister easily won against Bill Coleman 83-17 in their Greenville contest. Staying in the upstate, Rob Harris, Freedom Caucus member who has authored and co-authored many, many fantastic bills and amendments, a champion of the people, won his battle against a GOP caucus push candidate, Adam Crisp. Josiah Magnuson of Spartanburg, another Freedom Caucus guy, beat out again another GOP caucus candidate in Jason Shamus. Joe White of Newberry, Freedom Caucus member, and the head author of quite a few judicial reform bills, won against two no-comers, 56-41 and 56-3. Over to the PD. We talked to Shannon Grady earlier. She lost to Carla Schuessler for District 61. Kirkman Finley bested another friend of the show, Tracy Robbins, 66-34 in District 75. Freedom Caucus member Jake Kilmartin won 55-45 in a tight race over Dan Widener. Another House Freedom Caucus, actually the founder of the Freedom Caucus, R.J. May, easily beat Lorelei Gray 68-32 in their Lexington County race. Gray, supported to the nth degree by GOP caucus, allegedly was a target to take out one of the Freedom Caucus's nemesis of representatives like Micah Caskey of the same county. Anyway, last week we had Greg Ford on the show running against incumbent Chris Murphy in District 98. A ton of ethics concerns. We talked about him here on the show, surrounded Murphy. However, Murphy almost doubled Ford up 65-35 in their Dorchester County race. That race to me was pretty surprising. I honestly thought more people had had enough of Murphy. In other races, we just spoke to Duke Buckner, District 6 of the U.S. House. He wins over Justin Scott, and now Buckner will face Democratic House Whip Jim Clyburn. William Timmons narrowly beat former South Carolina House Freedom Caucus chair Adam Morgan 51-49, squeaking that out for the 4th district in Congress. That in and of itself is huge and sends a large message to Timmons. I don't know if Timmons will admit that. I've never spoken to the guy, but that has to send a huge message. This district, Timmons has and his family have plenty of money. They have plenty of money. They have money to buy money. And to be a squeaker like this sends a message. Yes, Timmons does have some media problems with a divorce and accusations and allegations and whatever. This sends a message. Let's see, U.S. House District, Congressional District 3, where Jeff Duncan is retiring, will go to a runoff between Mark Burns and Sherry Biggs. Let's see, notable races in the South Carolina Senate. Friend of the show, Lee Bright, former senator, now running again, won overall, but will be in a runoff for South Carolina seat 12. Senator Bright had a 37% of the vote, with Roger Nutt at 23% and Hope Blackley at 22%. In the Midlands, incumbent Senator Republican Katrina Shealy heads to a runoff against Carlisle Kennedy. There was a third candidate in that race, friend of the show, Zoe Warren, captured 24% of the vote. Over to staying in the Midlands in the new Senate District 26. District 26, Democrat incumbent, former senator in District 20, Dick Harpootlian, had a tough go against House member Russell Ott. Ott ended up 51-49 over Harpootlian to oust the Democrat lawmaker. So in a matter of a year or two, he loses his Senate seat and loses the Murdoch campaign. I think old Poot will still be okay. Anyway, another surprise in District 27, incumbent and one of the sister senators, Republican Penry Gustafson. She got absolutely hammered by Alan Blackman, 82-18. I don't know what totally took place leading up to that election. Something happened. Possibly the fact that Gustafson's vote on the 6-week abortion ban that got blocked by the Senate just didn't sit well with rural voters. I don't know, but just Gustafson, she got railed, just throttled. Anyway, also in the South Carolina Senate, District 41, Charleston and Dorchester, incumbent Senator Republican senator, and another one of the sister senators, Sandy Sin, gets booted out of office by friend of the show and guest on here, Matt Lieber, House Rep Matt Lieber, 51-49. A mere, and this is obviously got to be recounted and all, I'm showing 31 votes. Sin barely got the better of Lieber, barely the better of him in Charleston County. They were almost equal in Dorchester, but it was rural Colleton County that pushed Lieber to the win. This race, extremely controversial, extremely amount of mudslinging, saw the incumbent Sandy Sin push very nasty and strong narratives that, quite frankly, in my opinion, were juvenile and sophomoric. She should probably give the big middle finger to her, whoever advised her and her campaign leadership, as their way of trying to win completely backfired. Berkeley County Senator, friend of the show, Brian Adams easily wins, and incumbent Bill Sandifer loses by less than 75 votes to remain in the Senate. And finally, a last local race to report on. Former Jasper County Sheriff Chris Malfris, been on the show here a few weeks ago, beat fellow Republican Greg Warren in the GOP race to take on current Democrat Sheriff Hitt in November in Jasper County. That's going to round up all of those updates on this past election night.
Your Rock Authority. Big Patriot Radio.
I wouldn't tell anybody about this.
Couple of things real quick as we're winding it up. Don't forget, June 15th at 5 p.m., there's a town hall on Hilton Head to talk about the roadway projects and the bridge project. And the 17th of June, that's going to be 4 days from now. Pack the house at town council and express your consideration and concern not to take up the Gullah land away from the people. All right, we want to pass this along to you in the local area, a little public service announcement. The Bay Point Foundation has announced, and let me see here. I told these folks I would show this for you or to you. Boom, boom. Let's see. The Bay Point Foundation has announced its third annual art auction will be held on June 29th, beginning at 5:30 in the afternoon on beautiful Defusky Island at the Oyster House, 175 Avenue of the Oaks. You can bid in person, or if you can't make it to the island, online bidding is available. The online information can be found at BayPointIslandFoundation.com. That's BayPointIslandFoundation.com. See it there at the bottom of this little logo thing here. Also, if you need transportation, the options for that can also be found at BayPointIslandFoundation.com. Admission to the event on Defusky is $25 and includes drinks and hors d'oeuvres. Count me in. Now, proceeds from this event will benefit either the Living Shoreline Initiative, the Bay Point Island Foundation General Fund, or the Defusky Island School District. Guests may select where their dollars can go. It's all up to you. So that's why it can go to one of the three. You pick out which one you want, and that's where your dollars will go. See the banner on the screen and head out to this. This is going to be a great time. Hope to see everyone there. All right. That is going to do it for us tonight. I want to thank all of the guests. We had, I don't even know how many we had, 5, 4, 5, whatever. All of our guests for coming on tonight. And for you, especially you, for always tuning in. Hopefully, you'll go to our patreon.com/Beaufort County House of Cards or Beaufort. There it is coming across your screen. Patreon.com/Beaufort House of Cards. And help us out, or you can go directly to our Venmo page, and that also is scrolling across your screen. Your donation is what keeps independent journalism cycle going. I encourage everyone to pay attention, final thoughts, to what's going on, especially now that we've got Russian Navy ships and submarines off our Florida coast down there in Havana. That changes things a little bit. I encourage you to pay attention and be sure that you and your family are safe wherever you may be. Let's see. That's going to do it. Until next week, Thursday night, 7 o'clock, same time. Good night, America. And always watch your six.
Locked and loaded.
Let's go.
Big Patriot Radio. Blues, news, country pop, and classic rock.